Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for The Deep Dive. This is where we cut through the noise, get straight to the essential knowledge, really help you stay well informed. Last time, we took that high-level view, didn't we? The big picture, risk, governance, and compliance. But today, today we're boots on the ground. We're shifting from the sort of theoretical war room straight into the practical battlefield of cybersecurity. We're tackling a really crucial topic, the cyber battlefield, incident response and threat hunting.
And that shift, that's perfect framing because, in cybersecurity, there's this pretty sobering reality we just have to face. Fundamentally, organizations fall into, two camps, those that have been breached and those that just don't know it yet. It's kind of stark when you put it like that.
Yeah, that is stark.
No matter how strong your defense is, your preventative measures are, a determined attacker, eventually they'll likely find a way in. So what that means is a purely preventative strategy, while you absolutely need it, it's just not enough on its own. Real cyber resilience. It isn't just about, building higher walls. It's really defined by how fast and how effectively you respond when those walls are breached.
Right.
And for Canadian organizations, especially critical infrastructure, financial institutions, having a tested, effective incident response capability, it's not just a nice to have. It's basically a requirement for survival in today's threat landscape, non-negotiable.
That's a powerful thought. A bit chilling, maybe, but really important to get our heads around that inevitability. So, okay, with that firmly in mind, our mission today on this deep dive is, crystal clear. We're going to dissect the whole incident response lifecycle. We'll look at how you structure a response team. We'll detail those critical steps, remediation phases. And then we'll shift gears slightly, introduce proactive stuff like threat hunting and digital forensics. Think of this as your essential guide, really, for navigating the chaos of a cyber attack, all framed as conversation for you, our tech-savvy listeners and enthusiasts. Okay, let's dive in then, because with that reality check, it's obvious you can't just wing it when a breach happens. Improvisation is out. So to kick us off, can you walk us through the structure? What exactly are these 6 phases of the incident response lifecycle, the ones organizations really need to follow to bring some order to that chaos?
Absolutely. Yeah, improvising in a crisis. That's just a recipe for making things much, much worse. The most common model, the one widely adopted and based on NIST guidance, breaks it down into 6 distinct phases. And it's important to see it as a cycle, a continuous loop, not just a linear thing you do once. First up, we have preparation. This happens way before any incident. It's all about readiness.
Preparation. Okay, so that's the before the storm part. What happens when the storm actually hits, when you first suspect something's wrong?
Right, that takes us to phase 2, identification. This is where you actually confirm that an event is a security breach. It's not just an alert blinking. It's the moment you say, okay, yes, we have been compromised.
Well, once you've identified it, you move straight into containment.
Yeah.
The focus here is stopping the spread, like you said, stopping the bleeding.
Stopping the bleeding, that really paints a picture. So after you've contained it, put on the tourniquet, so to speak.
Yeah.
What's next? You can't just leave it like that. Exactly. You got to deal with the root cause. That brings us to phase 4, eradication. This is all about completely removing the threat from your systems, getting rid of it entirely. After that, we move into recovery. The goal here is restoring normal operations, bringing your systems and services back online, but safely. And then finally, there's the 6th phase, often overlooked, honestly, but absolutely vital. Lessons learned. This is the post-incident review, looking back to improve for next time. Each phase really builds on the last one. It's designed to be a holistic, effective response structure.
Okay, 6 phases. Preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. Looking at those 6, if you had to single one out as the most critical, which would it be and why? I think I might guess, but tell us why it stands out.
I suspect you're right.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt, the most critical phase is preparation.
Why?
Why? Because it lays the entire groundwork. It's the foundation for everything that follows when an incident actually occurs. You can't, build the fire engine while the house is already on fire.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Preparation involves creating a clear, detailed incident response plan, the IRP. That means define procedures, clear roles, who's responsible for what, communication strategies. It also means assembling and, crucially, training the response team, the CAP Computer Security Incident Response Team. And then there were the tools, having the right forensic software, secure communication channels, things like that. And maybe most importantly, conducting regular drills, tabletop exercises, simulations. These ensure that when a real incident hits, it's not panic stations. Everyone knows their role, the plan kicks in, and you manage the chaos in a disciplined way.
It really is building that muscle memory for chaos, isn't it? Okay, that makes total sense. Now, let's jump ahead a bit. Fast forward to the end of an incident. The immediate dangerous past, systems are coming back online. What exactly goes on during that final phase, lessons learned? And are there common ways organizations maybe stumble here?
Lessons learned, or post-incident analysis. It's so crucial for building resilience, but yeah, you're right. It's often where organizations fall short. After the dust has properly settled, systems are back up, the team gets together for a thorough review. And this isn't about pointing fingers or blaming people. It has to be an objective analysis. What went well during the response? Where did things go wrong? And critically, why? What can we actually improve?
Finding the root causes of the response issues themselves.
Precisely. A common pitfall is just rushing through it, or treating it like a checkbox exercise, maybe writing a quick report nobody reads. But if you don't dig deep into why a particular control failed or why communication broke down, you're just doomed to repeat those mistakes. The findings from this postmortem, they absolutely must feed back into updating the incident response plan, refining procedures, maybe identifying needs for new tools or training, strengthening security controls overall. It's this continuous feedback loop that makes an organization genuinely more resilient over time. It helps prevent the same attack working again and just makes you stronger.
Okay, so understanding what the phases is vital. But the who is just as critical. Now that we know the steps, who are the actual people executing this plan? Who's on the front lines during an incident?
Right, the who. The execution falls to a dedicated group, usually called the Computer Security Incident Response Team, or CSIRT.
Huh.
You might also hear CERT.
Yeah.
And it's not just, a random collection of IT folks. It's a deliberately assembled cross-functional team. It needs a clear command structure, very defined roles and responsibilities. These are your frontline responders. They bring together different kinds of expertise, technical, maybe legal, communications from across the organization to manage and mitigate these incidents effectively. Think of them as like the Special Forces unit for your cyber defenses.
Special forces, I like that. So within that CSRT, there's usually a leader, right? An incident manager or commander. What's their specific role? What are their responsibilities? They sound like the field general orchestrating the whole thing.
The incident manager or commander, yeah, they're absolutely that critical figure, the overall leader of the response effort. But here's something interesting. This role is often explicitly non-technical.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Their main job isn't deep technical analysis. It's coordination, making sure everyone's working together, sharing information, focused on the same goals. It's making critical decisions, often under intense pressure, with incomplete information. It's resource management, deploying people, tools, even budget effectively. And maybe one of the most vital parts, communication. Keeping executive leadership, stakeholders, sometimes even regulators, informed without getting them lost in the weeds. They orchestrate the entire effort, making sure all the pieces work together. It's about strategy, communication, and decision-making, not usually hands-on keyboard fixing the problem.
That's fascinating. Many people might assume the leader has to be the top technical expert. So if the incident manager handles coordination and strategy, what about those other crucial non-technical aspects you mentioned? Beyond the tech folks doing the remediation, why is it absolutely vital to have legal counsel and, say, public relations experts involved in the response team for any serious breach? They're not typically who comes to mind when you think cybersecurity team.
It's vital because a major breach isn't just a technical problem. It explodes outwards, creating huge legal, regulatory, and reputational risks. These risks can honestly damage an organization just as much, sometimes more, than the technical impact itself. Legal counsel, absolutely indispensable. They advise on the complex web of notification requirements. Think about Canada's PIPEDA or GDPR internationally. Getting those notifications wrong or delaying them can lead to massive fines, lawsuits, huge headaches.
Right, the compliance nightmare.
Exactly. And then you have public relations or communications experts. They are critical for managing the narrative, how the story gets told externally. They handle media inquiries. They craft messages for customers, for partners, for employees. Their job is to protect the organization's reputation, maintain customer trust, which is incredibly fragile after a breach, and basically mitigate the brand damage. So yeah, these non-technical roles, they ensure the organization weathers not just the technical storm, but the legal and PR storms that inevitably follow a significant incident.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's a multi-front battle. All right, let's shift now to the tactical work, the real boots-on-the-ground action during an incident. Let's talk about containment. What's the immediate #1 goal of that phase, and what might it actually look like in practice? You mentioned stopping the bleeding, but how do you do that without, completely crippling the business?
Good question. The immediate primary goal of containment is exactly that. Stop the bleeding. Prevent the incident from getting any worse, stop it from spreading further. Limit the damage. In practice, this can involve a whole range of actions, depending on the situation. It might be relatively simple, like pulling a single infected laptop off the network, just unplugging it. Or it could be much more drastic, like if you have ransomware spreading rapidly. You might need to segment off an entire part of your network to contain it.
Okay.
Other examples. Disabling user accounts were compromised, cutting off the attacker's access, or blocking malicious IP addresses at the firewall level. The absolute key here is speed. You need to act fast to halt the attacker's progress. But, and this is the tricky part, you have to balance that speed against business impact. You don't want your containment measures to cause more disruption than the incident itself, if you can help it. It's definitely a tightrope walk sometimes. Contain the threat, but keep critical operations running if possible.
Right, that balance sounds crucial. Okay, so once you've contained it, stopped the spread, you then move to eradication. What does that fully involve? It sounds like it must be more complex than just hitting delete on a virus file, especially with how attackers hide these days.
Oh, absolutely. Eradication is much more comprehensive than just deleting one file. It's the whole process of completely removing the threat, yes, but also, and this is critical, removing its root cause from the environment. Why? Because if you only remove the symptoms, the attacker might still have a way back in. It often feels like a game of whack-a-mole, honestly. Attackers are good at hiding. So eradication means finding and eliminating all the attacker's artifacts. Malicious files, sure, but also persistence mechanisms.
Persistence mechanism, like what?
Things like scheduled tasks they might have set up to relaunch malware, or registry keys they've modified, maybe hidden user accounts they created, anything that lets them regain access later. And you have to find the initial entry point, too. If you just remove the malware but don't patch the vulnerability they used to get in, well, they'll just walk right back through the same door. In many cases, particularly with sophisticated attacks or ransomware, the only way to be truly 100% certain a system is clean is to wipe it completely. Format the drives and rebuild it from a known good, fully patched baseline image. It sounds drastic, but sometimes it's the only way to be sure.
Wipe and rebuild. Wow, okay. That definitely underscores the severity. So everything we've talked about so far, preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, that's all part of incident response, which is fundamentally reactive, right? It kicks in after something bad is detected. But I know there's a proactive side to this coin. Can you tell us about this discipline called threat hunting?
Yes, threat hunting. It's a really fascinating and, frankly, increasingly essential discipline. It flips the script from reactive to proactive. Unlike incident response, which starts after an alarm goes off or an incident is confirmed, threat hunting involves security analysts actively searching for threats within their own network. And here's the key mindset shift. They often operate under the assumption that a breach has already occurred and simply hasn't been detected yet by the automated tools.
Assuming breach, that's quite a mindset.
It is. They're essentially hunting for the subtle signs, the indicators of compromise that maybe the SIEM alerts or the antivirus missed. Think of them as your organization's internal intelligence agency proactively looking for hidden adversaries.
That's a powerful analogy, operating under the assumption you're already breached. It sounds almost paranoid, but I guess it forces a certain kind of rigor. So what does that threat hunter's mindset actually look like in practice? How do they go about it?
It's fundamentally different from waiting for a red light to flash. A threat hunter doesn't wait for the alarm. Instead, they start by forming hypotheses, educated guesses based on threat intelligence, knowledge of attacker tactics, maybe anomalies they've noticed. For example, a hunter might hypothesize, I suspect an attacker might be using DNS tunneling to sneak data out of our network undetected.
Okay.
With that hypothesis in mind, they then proactively dive into the data. And we're talking vast amounts of data. Network logs, endpoint data from laptops and servers, application logs, cloud logs, everything. They're searching for subtle patterns, unusual connections, deviations from normal behavior, anything that might support or disprove their hypothesis. Evidence of that hidden adversary. It demands a really deep understanding of how attackers operate, their tactics, techniques, and procedures, or TTPs plus strong analytical skills, and frankly, a healthy dose of curiosity and suspicion. It's less about reacting to obvious signals and more about finding that faint trail of smoke before anyone else sees the fire.
That sounds incredibly data intensive. Sifting through potentially petabytes of logs, threat hunting must require some seriously powerful tools to even be feasible. What exactly is a SIAM system? You mentioned it briefly. How does it specifically help with this kind of proactive hunting?
You're spot on. The sheer volume of data makes powerful tools absolutely essential. A SIEM, that's Security Information and Event Management System, is central to this. Think of the SIEM as the central nervous system, or maybe the security data brain for an organization. Its core job is to collect, aggregate, and correlate log data from potentially hundreds, even thousands of different sources across the entire enterprise. We're talking firewalls, servers, workstations, applications, network devices, cloud services. You name it. Ideally, it logs to the SIEM.
Okay, a central collection point.
Exactly. And for threat hunting, this is invaluable. It provides a single place where analysts can search and analyze these massive unified data sets, makes finding that needle in the haystack possible. Plus, modern SIEMs often include advanced analytics, particularly machine learning capabilities, often called UEBA user in entity behavior analytics. UEBA can automatically spot anomalous patterns or behaviors that deviate from established baselines, things a human might easily miss just by looking at raw logs. So the CM provides the visibility, the search capability, and increasingly the analytical horsepower needed to support those hypothesis-driven hunts effectively. It turns that mountain of raw data into potentially actionable intelligence.
Got it. So SIEM is crucial for hunting. Now, let's say despite best efforts, a really significant breach happens. We don't just want to fix it and move on. We need to understand exactly what happened, piece by painstaking piece, especially if, say, legal action or serious regulatory reporting is needed. What exactly is digital forensics in this context?
Digital forensics. It's a specialized science, really. It's the science of collecting, preserving, and analyzing digital evidence in a way that is rigorous, repeatable, and critically legally admissible, so it can stand up in court if needed. The main goal is to reconstruct exactly what the attacker did step by step. Answer those key questions. How did they get in? What vulnerability did they exploit? What tools did they run? What systems did they touch? What data did they access? Or worse, steal? It really is like digital crime scene investigations.
TSI for computers.
Pretty much. The process usually follows strict procedures. First, collection or acquisition. This involves making a perfect bit-for-bit copy of forensic image of the compromised system's hard drives, memory, maybe mobile devices. The original evidence is ideally left untouched. Then, preservation. Ensuring the integrity of that collected image, making sure it doesn't get altered. Then comes the deep dive. Analysis. Investigators use specialized tools to examine these images, looking for artifacts, deleted files, logs, malware, remnants, all the clues. And finally, reporting. Compiling all the findings into a detailed, objective report that explains what happened, based on the evidence. It's absolutely critical for understanding the full scope and impact of an attack, and often for legal or regulatory purposes, too.
You mentioned legal admissibility and preserving integrity. I've often heard the term chain of custody in relation to forensics. What does that specifically mean, and why is it so incredibly important, especially if evidence might end up in court?
The chain of custody. It's fundamental to forensic science, both digital and physical, and absolutely vital for legal admissibility. It refers to the meticulous, unbroken record or log of everyone who has handled the evidence, from the very moment it's collected, through every stage of analysis, storage, and transfer, right up until it's presented, potentially in court. The documentation needs to show who had it, when did they have it, where was it stored, what did they do with it, e.g. analysis transport. To ensure the integrity of the digital evidence itself, cryptographic hashing is used. A unique digital fingerprint, a hash value, is calculated for the evidence image right at the start. This hash value is then rechecked every time the evidence is accessed or transferred. If the hash value ever changes, even by a single bit, it proves the evidence has been altered or tampered with.
I see. So it guarantees authenticity.
Exactly. It breaks the chain of custody, rendering the evidence potentially useless legally. So maintaining that perfect chain of custody, along with the hashing, is about proving beyond reasonable doubt that the evidence presented is the exact same evidence that was originally collected, untampered, reliable, trustworthy.
That's crucial detail. Okay, this has been incredibly insightful, covering the reactive response and the proactive hunt. Which brings us really to our final question, the big picture takeaway from today's deep dive. To synthesize everything we've discussed, the life cycle, the team, the tactics, the hunting, the forensics, what truly defines a resilient organization on this modern cyber battlefield?
That really is the core question, isn't it? I think the answer synthesizes everything we've touched on. The fundamental reality today is that cyber defense isn't a static state you achieve. It's an active, continuous engagement. So a truly resilient organization isn't defined by somehow achieving the impossible goal of never being breached. Because let's be honest, determined attackers often find a way. Resilience is defined by the effectiveness of your response when that breach inevitably happens. A well-rehearsed incident response lifecycle, based on those NIST phases we discussed, provides the crucial structure. It brings discipline to the chaos of an active breach, turning potential catastrophe into a managed event. But that reactive capability, that firefighting ability, needs to be complemented. It's profoundly strengthened by adopting a proactive mindset through threat hunting, actively searching your own environment, assuming breach, looking for those hidden threats before they cause major damage. So ultimately, I'd say an organization that accepts the inevitability, prepares diligently through planning, training, tooling, and combines effective response with proactive searching. That's the organization that can withstand attacks, recover quickly, minimize damage, and actually emerge stronger and more adaptable than before. That's resilience. Yeah, just sum it up concisely. It's really about those two pillars working together, isn't it? You need the structured, disciplined incident response, emphasizing that crucial preparation, following the phases, having that well-rounded CSIRT with legal and PR involved. That's your reactive defense. And you need the proactive, hypothesis-driven threat hunting, powered by tools like SIM, constantly searching, assuming you might already be compromised. That's your active defense. Understanding how to contain, eradicate, and recover effectively after an incident, and how to proactively hunt for threats before they blow up, having both is really the key to genuine cyber resilience today.
That's a fantastic summary. And it really drives home that idea you mentioned earlier. Incident response isn't just a document sitting on a shelf. It's a muscle. It has to be built through that preparation phase, strengthened through regular practice, those drills and tabletops you talked about, and constantly refined by actually learning the lessons after each event, big or small. Like any critical muscle, right? The more you work it, the stronger and more effective it becomes, making your organization truly ready to face whatever the cyber battlefield decides to throw its way next. Well, this has been incredibly valuable. Looking ahead, join us next time on the deep dive for our next episode in the Cybersecurity Fundamentals series. We'll be exploring staying resilient, business continuity, and disaster recovery, which feels like a very logical next step, another critical layer in protecting our digital world. Thank you so much for joining us today for this deep dive into the challenging world of incident response and threat hunting. We really hope this exploration has given you some valuable knowledge, maybe some fresh perspectives to think about. And please don't miss out on future deep dives. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, Tech AI and Beyond, wherever you get your podcasts. That way you can keep enhancing your understanding of these critical tech topics with us.